With us now to discuss the case, Tom Ruskin, private investigator, and Rosemary Arnold, criminal defense attorney who worked with baby Lisa's family lawyer, now Joe Tacopina, on that Irwin Vandersloot case. And CNN's Jim Spellman joins us as well. And Jim, I want to start with you. I heard that the governor now is getting involved in this, and something about the National Guard. What's happened?
On Sunday, the National Guard were able to deploy 25 troops here to assist with searching areas that already been searched. Difficult terrain, dense woods. They went inch by inch through. We know that that they've told us that if they're needed again, they'll be ready to deploy. So we think that possibly they're going to have more of those troops out here to join the searches. That's exactly what Attorney Joe Tacopina said yesterday he'd like to see more of the National Guard out here assisting in these searches. And he really has, since getting on the scene there, gone on a very good offense for this family. Has anything new come out this morning or this evening? Well, we do have two things happening right now. A fresh search of an area about a mile and a half here. They had police evidence van is there. We haven't seen that out for several days. It's there. We don't know exactly what they're looking for. They've closed off a block, but there is a fresh search going there. Also, a CNN affiliate, KNBC, is reporting that in Manhattan, Kansas, about 2 hours away from here in Kansas City, there was a possible sighting. They're tracking that down right now. So there is some things happening, and that's exactly what Joe Tacopina wants to see more of, and less focus on his client, Deborah Bradley, the mother of baby Lisa. That's right. Rosemary, you've worked with Joe. You know his sort of MO. What's he doing down there? What is his first goal?
His first goal is to protect that baby and to protect those parents. Mm-hmm. Those people are very simple people, and they're victims. And already in the public eye, in the press, they're being considered as persons of interest in this case, when in fact there's absolutely zero evidence that they did anything whatsoever to harm that baby.
Well, hold on a second. You know, when you're the mother of an 11-month-old and you acknowledge that you've gotten drunk, possibly even blacked out, and you say it's because anything after dark is your grown-up time, in my book, you're hurting your baby right there.
Well, that might not be the most responsible way to be when you're with your 11-month-old baby, but it doesn't mean she did anything to the baby.
You're right.
And he's out there to make sure that the investigation is focused on finding that baby. Because if they arrest that mother, and there is no evidence right now whereby they should be arresting her, the investigation could come to an end. And then they stop looking for this child, who, in this case, really is the victim of everything.
To play devil's advocate here for a minute, from a police standpoint, the police reasonably assume the parents may have had something to do with it.
Isn't that normally the case?
That's always the case, because over history, we know that parents have been involved in abductions as well as kidnappings as well as killing of their own children.
But at this point, as Rosemary said, there's no evidence showing that.
You can't take anyone off the table as a possible suspect or subject. And the fact of the matter is, she changed the story once or twice. Does it make you look at her a little bit differently? Yes, it does. Well, does it mean she's guilty? Absolutely not.
Well, here's what Joe Tacopina said about that. He said, you know, people are making more of this than it is. She's not changing her story as to when she saw her baby last. Mm-hmm. She describes putting the baby to bed at a certain time of night. Obviously, she wasn't clocking that. Again, I'm a simple mom. I know if I have to put the baby to bed at 6:30 or at 10:30. Mm-hmm. And so I know that Joe's job is to make this seem as, you know, as harmless and there's nothing to it. But in fact, when time is so crucial here, isn't that a huge inconsistency?
It's a huge inconsistency depending on who your subject is, who the mother is. These are, as Rosemary said, very simple people. They come off that way. The boyfriend does not seem like a very sophisticated guy. So you have to weigh that in. When you're interviewing them as a police officer or as a detective, or even as a private investigator, what Bill Stanton is doing is trying to determine their credibility for Joe and for their investigation to try and determine what happened here. You have to weigh in the sophistication of the person you're interviewing.
Rosemary, Joe said that after, he was kind of uncertain about this, and then after spending a lot of time with the family and talking to them, he was now convinced that they didn't have anything to do with it. When you go into a case like this, and you've worked with Joe on a very high-profile case such as this, how can you determine? And if you've been able to determine it, why haven't the cops?
Well, Joe must have information, first of all, that he got, probably from Bill Stanton, that indicates to him that there was no foul play on behalf of the parents.
And Bill Stanton is a private investigator, a very well-known one, who has worked with Joe and is involved in this case.
Not to mention, I'm sure Joe spends a lot of time talking to these people, and you can tell by people's visceral reactions to things how really they feel. But really, if you look at all the evidence, there's no evidence that the parents did anything, but there is evidence of other sorts, that someone else did something. You have evidence that there's a window that's tampered with, and you have evidence that there are lights on and things missing from the house. So there's other evidence, too. So when you weigh it...
Let's go back out to Jim in Missouri. What has happened today? I know that yesterday you said that there had been talk about the police going in and removing items from neighbors' homes. Have you learned anything else? Have they gone and perhaps questioned other people?
We don't know if they've questioned anybody, but one thing they are focusing on is using dogs more in the search. Yesterday, there were dogs out here at the home of baby Lisa and at the next-door neighbor. We saw them bringing out bags from the next-door neighbor's house. Investigators here insist to us that that is not evidence. It's material related to the dog search. It's been suggested that that is material that might have scent on it that they can then take and use for a dog to smell at another location to see if they get a hit off it on that other location. At the search that's going on right now, a few miles from here, we do know that they're using dogs, and when they searched that area previously, they hadn't used dogs. So they are ramping up investigations like that, but they tell us none of it is based on new leads or new information. We don't have any reason to believe they've interviewed anybody new.
That is what is so frustrating about this, Tom, you know, that it just seems to be this blank wall that you're hitting. There are these odd things, the window, the cell phone's missing, that sort of stuff. And what kind of really frustrated me today is that I had bought the story that the family was telling, that they had been talking to the police, they'd given them all this information. The police today came out and very forcefully said, they have not been talking to us the way they indicate. When they were given the chance to talk to the mother, they said that during it she would become uncomfortable and she would stop the discussion.
Again, you're not dealing with a very sophisticated mother or father of the child.
Well, what does sophistication have to do with just answering questions?
You answer to a certain point. Police have a tendency, and police have to do their job. Police have a tendency sometimes to be accusatory. The mother said this morning that she was accused of murdering the child within an hour or two afterwards. It's a police tactic. The police also accused her of making a call at 2:30 in the morning. What the mother has said is the cell phones were disconnected. There was no way to make an outgoing call. If she knew that, she knew the police were playing with her. It may clam her up. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying that she should stop talking to them, because it's very important to keep them involved and have them follow the leads and try and eliminate yourself as a subject if you're not. Yeah. There are things here, though, as far as the police being called. They were called 12 minutes after the father got home and realized that the baby was missing. That's significant. Yeah. That's showing, oh my God, my baby's missing, let me call the police. From what I understand, they ran to the neighbors first to see if the baby may have been there, if the neighbor may have taken the baby. Yeah. But that's reasonable.
Okay. Now, y'all keep saying, well, they're not sophisticated. I get the sense that people on the East Coast, whenever they hear people, you know, talk a little slower or aren't dressed quite as snazzy, go, well, they're not sophisticated. Again, these are regular folks. So what makes them any different than anybody else?
The answer to the question is, in this particular case, what Joe is saying, I believe, is that he wants to see a good faith investigation. And he'll let them talk to the police as long as the police are talking to them in good faith. If you say, we want to talk to you because we want to find your baby and we want to help you find your baby, that's good faith. But if in the back of your mind you're thinking you're a person of interest and we think you did it and we want to talk to you and we're going to tell you it's because we want to find your baby, but it's really because we want to pin this on you, that's not good faith. And that's how they're feeling. It's not that they're unsophisticated, it's they're probably feeling backed to the wall.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. More on this right afterwards.